Coffee. For so many of us, it's how we start our day, right? But is it actually good for you? You hear so many different things, and the advice seems to change all the time. Well, today, we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're diving deep into a huge 2025 scientific review on coffee's health effects to see what the evidence really tells us.
So, where are we getting our info? Our guide for this whole explainer is a massive 2025 review that was published in the peer-reviewed journal Nutrients. And look, this isn't just one single study. It's a review of many huge studies, which gives us this incredible high-level view of what the science says right now.
Which, of course, brings us back to the big question. Is that coffee you're drinking right now, or maybe the one you're about to go get, actually doing you any good? That's exactly what we're here to figure out, using the best quality evidence we have.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at where this data even comes from. Then, we'll get into the biggest finding, the link to overall mortality. After that, we'll zoom in on specific diseases, talk about cancer and organ health, and then wrap it all up with the key things you really need to know.
All right, first up, before we even get to the results, it's super important to understand where this information is coming from because, the quality of the data is everything. And what's so incredible here is just the sheer scale of the data we're talking about. The review pulls together information from these massive, long-term studies, things like the NIH-AARP study and the UK Biobank. Basically, scientists followed millions, literally millions of people for decades to see how their habits, like drinking coffee, impacted their health over time. So yeah, this is not some small survey.
Okay, let's get to the headline finding of this whole review. This is the big one. The connection between drinking coffee and your risk of dying from, well, anything. Scientists call it all-cause mortality.
And the conclusion is just incredibly clear. There's a strong inverse association. So what does that mean in plain English? It means that overall, drinking coffee is linked to a lower risk of death. Let's look at how that actually plays out.
This chart shows it perfectly. What you're looking at here is a classic J-shaped curve. Along the bottom, you've got the number of cups of coffee a day. And on the side, that's your relative risk of death. See how 1 means no change? Well, look at how the line dips down. That's the risk dropping before it bottoms out in that sweet spot. And where is that sweet spot? According to all this data, it's right around 3 to 5 cups per day. That's the zone where we see that 10 to 15% reduction in mortality risk.
Okay, so living longer is great, but what about the risk for some of the biggest diseases out there? Let's dive into what the review found for heart, lung, and metabolic health.
When it comes to your heart, the evidence is really strong. That same range, 3 to 5 cups a day, is linked to a 15% lower risk of cardiovascular disease. And for your lungs, the data points to a protective effect there too. Scientists think it's because of compounds in coffee that actually help open up your airways.
Now, when we turn to metabolic health, wow, the risk reduction is even bigger. Get ready for this number, 29%.
So what's that 29%? That's the drop in risk for developing type 2 diabetes. And this is a huge finding based on data for nearly 1.2 million people. What's really interesting is that for every extra cup you drink a day, the risk drops by another 6%. And get this, it works for both regular and decaf coffee.
All right, let's talk about something that used to worry a lot of people, the link between coffee and cancer. It's time to see what this huge modern review actually says about that risk and about the health of our vital organs.
Let's just be blunt about it. The World Health Organization's top cancer research agency, the IRC, puts coffee in Group 3. That's the official category for things that are not classifiable as carcinogenic to humans. Basically, it's a direct takedown of those old fears.
And when you dig into the specifics, the review confirms there's no increased risk for cancers like pancreatic or breast cancer. But it gets even better. The data actually suggests coffee might be protective against some cancers, showing a lower risk for endometrial, liver, and certain types of skin cancer.
And these benefits don't just stop at cancer. They seem to extend to our organs too. The evidence points to a lower risk for liver problems like fibrosis and cirrhosis. Same for the kidneys. Drinking 2 or more cups a day is linked to a lower risk of chronic kidney disease.
Okay, we've gone through a ton of data here, from living longer overall to specific diseases. So now, let's just boil it all down. What are the key take-home messages from all this evidence?
So, let's recap. First, that sweet spot for the most benefit seems to be a moderate intake, around 3 to 5 cups a day. That's what's consistently tied to a lower risk of death and major diseases. And remember, this isn't just about the caffeine. Decaf seems to work too.
Now, here's the really important part. If you load your coffee up with sugar, you could cancel out these benefits. And finally, and maybe most importantly, all this new evidence shows that those old worries about coffee causing cancer, they're just not supported by the science.
So, we'll leave you with this thought. After looking at all this evidence from this comprehensive 2025 review, maybe it's time to stop thinking of coffee as a guilty pleasure. Maybe it's actually a valuable part of a healthy lifestyle.